Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I don't know, man. This life is not for the faint of heart. It's definitely not something that I think any of us should take for granted. It has all the makings of, you know, a fantasy storybook. I mean, the way that it all came together. Self-sustaining garden, as long as we leave it the fuck alone. Let it do its thing. And all you got to do is just care for it. And sure, we fucked that up. But still, you know what I mean? Still. As the past taught us nothing, I am so... I'm perplexed. Not usually at a loss for words, and I don't even know if this is going to do any good. I don't know if I should care who watches or who doesn't. I just got to get some shit off my chest, so here I am. And here we go. I'm just not going to waste a lot of time. I'm just going to roll that beautiful bean footage and watch what very well may be the beginning, and I think should be the start of your ending. Because enough's enough.
Delighted to welcome Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu back to the White House. It's a wonderful feeling and a wonderful event. We had fantastic talks, and thank you very much with your staff. He's the first foreign head of state to visit during our...
The first thing to recognize is how ghoulish Benjamin Netanyahu appears in person. A reprehensible figure, to be sure, but it's just like one of those people who very much looks like on the outside what we all know is just brewing inside, which is the worst Gollum dark shit. I often say that Donald Trump is the personification of America. He is the walking personification. He is American empire. He is Western culture personified. Fat, slovenly, but exceptionally, or exceptional because of his financial backings, whatever. Bibi Netanyahu is everything that anyone has ever, who's portrayed the Gollum, who's talked about the Gollum that he and his people represent. He is the walking personification. He looks like Smeagol. He's got this rat face, pale as shit. Just, it's really just very disgusting.
Our administration, and Bibi, I want to say it's an honor to have you with us. Over the past 4 years, the U.S. and the Israeli alliance.
Who's walking who? Which dog is walking? Who's in charge here? Do we really answer to this cat like this? The blackmail material. And the one thing that most people will say is, well, he's not compromised. He being Trump. Who's walking who, though? Who's the dog? Are we really that beholden to the Israeli lobby and to whatever blackmail that this is the position that we'd like to put ourselves in? You just supported a genocide. That wasn't enough. Now you
has been tested more than any time in history. But the bonds of friendship and affection between the American and Israeli people have endured for generations, and they are absolutely unbreakable. They are unbreakable.
that's just a telling sign, right? It's unbreakable. There's no turning back from this course of action, which calls into question, then what does God do? What does God do? You think, okay, whatever your opinions are of God, however you practice, you think he supports this shit? Well, the God of the Bible, maybe he does. That God is a marauder, right? A go and take it her. A leave no stone unturned her. Fucking hell.
That under our leadership, the cherished alliance between our two countries will soon be stronger than ever. We had a great relationship. We had great victories together 4 years ago. Not so many victories over the past 4 years, however. In my first term, Prime Minister and I forged a tremendously successful partnership that brought peace and stability to the Middle East like it hadn't seen in decades. Together, we defeated ISIS. We ended the disastrous Iran nuclear deal, one of the worst deals ever made, by the way, and imposed the toughest ever sanctions on the Iranian regime. We starved Hamas and Iran's other terrorist proxies, and we starved them like they had never seen before. Resources and support disappeared for them. I recognized Israel's capital, opened the American embassy in Jerusalem, and got it built, by the way. Built it too, just not only designated it, but got it built at a price that nobody's seen for 40 years. We got it built. It's beautiful, all Jerusalem stone, right from nearby, and it's something that's very special. And recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, something that they talked about for 70 years, and they weren't able to get it, and I got it. And with the historic Abraham Accord, something that was really an achievement that was, I think, going to become more and more important because we achieved the most significant Middle East peace agreements in half a century, but the Abraham Accords in particular. And I really believe that many countries will soon be joining this amazing peace and economic development transaction. It really is a big economic development transaction. I think we're going to.
That's all that matters, right? Economic development transaction. A big economic development transaction. When will these people learn? Like, as much as I strive to prestidigitate millions of dollars, that's the goal. Because fuck this shit. Like, being in the middle of empire, watching how it operates, and being kind of conscious of how it operates. Hide your kids, hide your wife type shit. And run away is something that I've struggled with, because it's like, I was talking to my daughter the other day and she's like, I feel like I could make a difference, Dad. And I'm just like, damn, I'm no coward. But I'm talking to her, I'm like, baby girl, I just want to make sure that you and your sisters can escape this shit. And she's like, I think I can help change it. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't expecting to hear that. A white man's approach to life is, I'm sorry, man, you just have fucked it. Not all, but the ones up top, you just fucked it. Like, everything that you're hearing and doing, and I see guys on there like, you're not really going to do that. And that comes off a little bit like, That comes off a little bit like this.
Think of that trick, how they pull it off, purely based on they wouldn't do that. How many times you got to see they would do that for you get it? They would do that, and they did do that, and they're doing it now. And I understand if you're a little cow that wants to believe in it, but grow the fuck up. Just be honest. Look at the thing in front of you.
You don't think this cat's serious? I was looking at people on fucking Twitter, and one guy's like, "Oh, this is the art of the deal." He talks bombastically, and then, you know, they'll never do that. Okay. Get your money up. Get your money up again. Because, I mean, that means that, okay, let me let him talk. But the announcement means that everything that happened from October 7th not only was planned. You remember the picture of ghoulish Bibi with the, you know, greater Israel, the new Middle East, and there's no Gaza. There's no Palestine. Remember that picture? Looks to be coming to fruition, eh?
We're going to have a lot of people signing up very quickly. Unfortunately, for 4 years, nobody signed up. Nobody did anything for 4 years except in the negative. Unfortunately, the weakness and incompetence of those years, those past 4 years, the grave damage around the globe that was done, including in the Middle East, grave damage all over the globe. The horrors of October 7th would never have happened if I were president. The Ukraine and Russia.
Why? They wouldn't have happened. Why? This is the plan. This has been the plan. So is his side of the mob capable of or has different interests in the area? Doubtful.
Disaster would never have happened if I were president.
So you're saying it would have been more of a negotiation? You'd have been able to. Do you think you can negotiate people out of their homeland? And listen, I've gone through this thing 7 ways from Sundays. It's hard. The Arabs that occupy Palestine, you know, fuck.
President over the past 16 months.
You think you can just negotiate someone out of their homeland? The thing about colonialism that baffles me is that, do you think that these things won't be revisited upon you? I'm being serious. It's an open-ended question, I know, but do you think that, you know, they said the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So these short-term wins, and Bibi's fucking, if there's anybody in history that I could just be next to just to kick the shit out of, it would be Bibi Netanyahu.
Israel has endured a sustained, aggressive, and murderous assault on every front.
The reframing, obviously, you know, this is part of the deal, is that you have to bend the knee and typify them as the greatest victims ever, despite the obvious concerted, planned effort to have this happen, to prop up Hamas, have them do exactly what you knew that they were going to do, so that you could have a right to do what inevitably you wanted to do, which is flatten Gaza.
But they fought back bravely. You see that?
Fought back
you know
bravely.
that what we have.
This is fought back bravely. Let me see if I can pull up Middle East Eye. This is fought back bravely. This is fucking sick, man. This is why TikTok. This is why I wonder now what a lot of the pro orange guy, I wonder what they're saying to this now. They have to cheer it, right? You have to cheer ethnic cleansing now. This is what the U.S. is about to embark on. Finance a genocide and now embark on ethnic cleansing. Cool. Let's see. Let's see what fought valiantly looks like. Did they make them take all their most heinous footage down? They probably did. This is fighting valiantly. Burning mosques. These demons. I don't give a shit. The golem.
In Washington, the fact that this would be President Trump's first meeting with a foreign leader since his inauguration is telling.
It's hard to watch that dude and not just want to punch fucking air. Hold on. Where's fought valiantly? They just celebrated the ceasefire. They just celebrated a ceasefire, and these people want to go home. And now what they get to hear is that we, not I, not the royal we, but we are down to support now the removal, the complete removal of 1.8 million people from their homeland, also known as ethnic cleansing. This shit's wild, man. This shit is like they just celebrated a ceasefire. They just celebrated the ceasefire. January 19th, the day before the inauguration. These people have been through more than enough. And only to have the orange man. Look at these. Oh, fuck me, dude.
Dozens of Palestinian women report being sexually assaulted after Israel's army raided Gaza's Kamal Adwan hospital last month in a months-long siege and bombardment of North Gaza. After burning down hospital departments and killing those inside, Israeli soldiers forced roughly 350 doctors and patients to leave the hospital at gunpoint, half-dressed, and enter a nearby hall to be strip-searched. There, women were ordered to remove their headscarves, and some were made to undress, including girls as young as 13.
This is called
Others reported Israeli soldiers repeatedly touching their genitals and brutally beating those who tried to resist. They then took women and girls to a separate location, assaulting and threatening them on the way. Upon arrival, they dragged them by their hair, forced them into the toilets, and ordered them to undress. When they refused, the soldiers beat, forcibly stripped, and insulted the women before dragging them outside and making them kneel while undressed. Detaining dozens of medics, patients, and displaced Palestinians, Israel's army then forced these women to flee south, some without their families. After they reached Gaza City, stories of these abuses spread widely, although many women were still unwilling to speak about it given the topic's sensitivity. They are among scores of Palestinian women who have reported sexual abuse by Israeli soldiers or prison guards amid the surge in reported assaults after the 7th of October 2023.
Let's see what else. What will happen after the bombs fall silent? Well, apparently, America is going to participate in completely ethnically cleansing the place. Regardless of, what does this say? Regardless of the decimation of Gaza, Israel cannot bypass the Palestinian issue as a central driver of the Middle East's political landscape. Not unless the U.S. steps in and decides, oh no, we'll help you clean that up. We're going to turn it into the French Riviera. What the fuck? My country disgusts me. And I only call it my country because I was born here. These people are demonic. There's just no other way to say it. I wish I could be more eloquent. I wish I had more poetic terminology to use. You know what I mean? To real dress it up and make it sound real flowery. These people are demons. This is what power unchecked culminates in. And the biggest like kick in the nuts is that these people are pussy. They pot shot at women and kids who were, it was already a barrel shoot, right? It was already a barrel shoot that they were able to, for over a year, label a war. For more than a year, they were able to label this a war. I don't give a fuck who's in what tunnel underwear. They were able to label barrel shooting at children and women, and they were able to label it a war. And the pussy ass media apparatus over here went along. They would always call it the Gaza war. That's not a war. Other than because you label it that way. This is only because you label it that way. I wish I had flowery language to give. I don't. It's shooting fish in a barrel. And just armed to the teeth with everything that, you know, Raytheon and all these fucking weapons makers over here could give these to just completely decimate people who are already living under apartheid conditions. And they call that a war. So first that's and then they get to pat themselves on the back, the strong Israeli, you know, IDF. So fuck these cats. And after all of that, you get the ceasefire declared, they give back whatever hostages, and then the solution is we're going to turn it into the French Riviera.
They also took action to restore a maximum pressure policy on the Iranian regime, and we will once again enforce the most aggressive possible sanctions, drive Iranian oil exports to zero, and diminish the regime's capacity to fund terror throughout the region and throughout.
I'm telling you right now, if you're some Zionist weirdo or some Christian weirdo who supports this shit, I'm going to remind you, okay, regardless of what you think was written in your Bible, there is not a just God that supports this. And when I say that, what I'm saying is what you have visited upon these people will be revisited upon you. Make no mistake. Right now, you can laugh and pat yourself on the back and try and explain it through the Bible. No, this is there. To have that conversation about Europeans occupying North Africa is just one I'm not willing to do right now. What I can say is that if you don't stand up, and I'm talking to Western interests now, I'm talking to Western-born Christian, if you don't stand up, I'm telling you, there's not a just God that supports this, and it'll be visited upon you. Watch.
The world. We had no threat when I left office. Iran was not able to sell oil. Nobody was buying oil because I said, don't buy it. If you buy it, you're not doing any business with the United States. And Hamas was not being funded. Hezbollah was not.
Yeah, they were. They were being funded by this.
Nobody was being funded.
Gollum right
there
here.
Would never have been an October.
That's absolutely incorrect. Not that he doesn't know this. Who funded Hamas? Israeli support for Hamas. Former Israeli officials have openly acknowledged Israel's role in providing funding and assistance to Yassin's network as a means of undermining the secular left-wing Palestinian factions that made up the PLO. I think what's so insidious about understanding global issues from a American citizen perspective is that we are the most propagandized people in the world. We just believe what we've been told, right? And why would you believe anything else? And what you haven't been told is the entire story.
Seven. 2 weeks ago, I once again, Hamas was not being funded. Hezbollah was not being funded. Nobody was being funded. There would never have been an October 7th. 2 weeks ago, I once again
There's no way that you
designated
get
the Houthis as a terrorist organization. They're trying to destroy world shipping lanes, and that's not going to happen. And over the weekend, I ordered airstrikes against senior ISIS leaders hiding in the caves.
This was that thing that happened in Ethiopia.
Of Somalia and took them out. Here in America, we've begun the process of deporting foreign terrorists, jihadists, and Hamas sympathizers from our soil, just as we have people that are extremely evil, and we're sending them out of our country.
It's so hilarious. This is going to get racial, so I don't care. It's so hilarious listening to, and because you can just say things. And I guess, you know, from an altruistic standpoint, I just never thought that, oh, you can just say things. But they just say things. And so to call people extremely evil, when you look at empire and how it behaves and the amount of gaslighting and projecting that these white men have to do in order to justify their actions is crazy. It's just like to your face. It's so blatant. And you're like, they wouldn't do.
Think of that trick, how they pull it off, purely based on they wouldn't do that. How many times you got to see they would do that before you get it? They would do that. And they did do that. And they're doing it now. And I understand if you're a little cow that wants to believe in it, but grow the fuck up. Just be honest. Look at the thing in front of you.
So just say things that they know to, like, these people are evil because they're defending themselves. Because so self-defense is evil. So that would make Israel evil. Wait, chicken or egg? Which came first?
They came from jails. They came from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they were dumped into our country. They're gang members. We're getting them out at numbers that nobody can actually believe. And every single country is taking those people back. They said they would never take them back, and they're all taking them back, and they're taking them back very gladly. And I recently signed an executive order combating the vile wave of anti-Semitism that we've seen in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks.
That is an executive order that authorized the deportation of students who participated in pro-Palestinian rallies on college campuses. So ones who are here on student visas, you're out of here. And that's called anti-Semitic, right? Because that's how that works, right? If you see a thing happening right in front of your face and you label it what it is, genocide, ethnic cleansing, that's actually anti-Semitic. And now an offense punishable by deportation.
Together, America and Israel will renew the optimism that shined so brightly just 4 years ago. It was really a bright, beautiful light. We will restore calm and stability to the region and expand prosperity.
How do you expect to do that? You think that these people are just going to go quietly? 1.8 million people, whatever percentage of which are combatants. I believe it's probably far below 1.8 million. Probably somewhere far below 0.8 million. Probably somewhere far below 0.1 million. You think they're just going to leave? How is that going to happen? U.S. troops?
Prosperity, opportunity, and hope to our nations and for all people in the Middle East, including the Arab and Muslim nations. Very important. We want the Arab and Muslim nations to have peace and have tranquility.
How, when you continually got your white dick in everyone's ass? because of these fucks. These completely out of place European fucks. The golem. And it's just expected. You just got to accept it. They're going to be there. Okay.
And have great lives. I'd like to now invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to say a few words. And
I missed the part.
Killed and destroyed like this civilization of wonderful people has had to endure. The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades, and transition team, the special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's here somewhere. Steve? Stand up, Steve, please. What a job you've done. What a good job you've done. Proud of you. Done a fantastic job. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Thank you, Mike, for working so well with us. Thank you. We have, in addition, Marco Rubio, who is on the phone right now, listening to every single word that we say, and he's going to be great. And Pete, congratulations. And Scott, congratulations. I see you're here. And Caroline's been doing a great job. She's really probably talked about more than anybody here. She's done a fantastic job, and thank you very much, Caroline. We're proud of you. But we'll only be satisfied when all of these problems are solved, and we have the team to solve them, and that's going to happen. And it's going to happen, I think, very quickly. I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades, and
Why? Because people don't like to be colonized. That's the only thing that would make it a symbol of death and destruction. Funny thing is, when someone lives somewhere, they don't appreciate being displaced. And ever since the Balfour Declaration, which was written in the early 1900s, when de facto Europeans, not because I said so, because that's where they originate from, who had trouble finding a place that they were much like the Palestinians of Europe. The European Ashkenazi Jewish. And because, mind you, the Balfour Declaration was written years before the man with the short mustache started doing his thing. 30 years. Hold on. Let's see. When was the Balfour Declaration written? November 2nd, 1917. The Balfour Declaration, a public pledge by Britain in 1917, declaring its aim to establish a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. Let me think about this. So in 1917, years before the short mustached man, 16 years to be exact, before the short mustached man, well, let's call it 14 years before he started doing his thing, they had already carved out an idea about this little place where the European Jews were not from. It wasn't even going to be there first. I think it was supposed to be Zimbabwe at first that they wanted to take. Homeland. That's your homeland, your biblical homeland. Mind you, during this entire time, there were Arabic speaking, living Jews already in Palestine. And by the way, even in the Balfour Declaration, the place was called Palestine. So when they always say a people, there was no Palestine. That's, well, they thought there was when the Balfour Declaration was written. So obviously, this couldn't be a place where you were expelled from because there were still Jews in the area. Like, and I mean, again, this is North Africa we're talking about, right? So let's just keep it 1,000. Just keep it a stack. Yes, we all, at some point in time, you'll say everyone originated in Africa. Okay, fine. We're eons from that. And there are definite regions where everyone originates from. These are not even German. These are like lower USSR, Soviet Union type Europeans. That's where they originate from. Former known as the Khazarian Empire. The Khazars, K-H-A-Z-A-R. Who could not find a place in, no one would take these particular people. You just have to research it yourself. They were kicked out of here, they were kicked out of there, couldn't stay over here, couldn't stay over there. And eventually Great Britain said, well, we'll find you in 1917. So when you say that this is a place that's always been mired in death and destruction, it's because once you said, hey, nice land over there, sounds familiar, sounds a lot like the reason why the America supports the Israel Project is because this is how America became America. Nice land you have over there. Mind if I discover it? And what you expect then is that people would go, oh yeah, that's cool. And then you just start redrawing borders exactly how it was done over here. We'll just have, it'll be like it's both of ours. I'll just have the majority of it and then more of it and then more of it and then more of it. And the people there go, you just have to research the history of Israel. The people there go, okay, that's about enough of that. And they start to fight back. And then you say, you're evil, giving yourself reason to bomb the shit out of them, apparently, or lock them in an apartheid cage. This is how the middle, I never even understood. You know, growing up Christian, I thought I knew because I know the Bible. These are two cousins who have always been at war. No, that's not how that worked historically. That's how that worked geopolitically, quote unquote, biblically, because it was a lot easier to sell that story. Jew and Muslim and Christian all lived in Palestine in peace until this bullshit. Because Jew and Christian and Muslim were all Arabic up until that point in time. And then Europeans showed up and the region went to shit. Now, that's just a historic fact. Draw from it whatever conclusion you would like. That's anthropological historic fact that these are converts to the Jewish religion, European converts to the Jewish religion, not biblical Jews, so to speak. Does that mean that they don't deserve to be able to be in the homeland? No, it doesn't mean that at all. Go, by all means. Again, Jew, Christian, Muslim, all lived in Palestine in peace all the way up until this bullshit. So what does that tell you? And again, I'm concerned for this shit because I got kids, man. You have kids. The funny thing about displacing people from their homeland is that some people will tend to fight to the death.
So bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there. And
we're so used to it because Hawaii just rolled over. which they didn't, but they ended up having to. And Puerto Rico just rolled over, which they didn't, but they ended up having to. And Canada is Canada. We're just so used to it because it worked here. You just drive the indigenous out of the public view, and then you say everybody does it. That's not how that works. It's okay. This isn't a castigation of everyone. I'm just saying the empires that do this and have been able to do this, they did it in Australia. My father's homeland in the Congo. Look up King Leopold, the butcher of Congo. Millions of Congolese for rubber trades. Oh yeah, that's what colonialism does. And then the history, yes, is written by the anyway. People are not going to go quietly, god damn it.
And frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long.
Unlucky? Unlucky is me in Vegas. Unlucky is a kick hitting the goalpost. Being colonized and then apartheided and then fish in a barrel is not unlucky. It's unjust.
Long time. Being in his presence.
Being targeted, like you were living your life, and then all of a sudden someone from way over there was like, they got some land over there that I'd like to be a part of. And I don't want to move in as a neighbor. I want it.
Just
I'm not going to move in alongside. No, I want all of it. And you gone.
It's not been good. And it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with you.
Compassion, right? That's been so bad for them there. It's been so bad. They've lived and fought for their land and they died there. And so our answer is to ship them away from their home.
Humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians.
Various domains that will be occupied. It sounds more like what they are already living in. If you're just going to ship somebody off to a country, why not? Why wouldn't I just move into another country and then I get an apartment there or I get a house there? Why would I need a domain? Like, why would I be moved into what are you going to build a concentration camp? Doesn't that sound weird?
With humanitarian heart, died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of
America? What about here? Oh, no, huh? Yeah, because that probably wouldn't go over well. Because if I were Palestinian and you were like, yeah, it's not going to work for you at home anymore because they're just going to kill you if you stay home. So we're just going to move you other places. And I'm like, but you're financing them killing me. Can't you just stop them from killing me? And you're like, here's the thing about that. It's the way our bank accounts and our blackmail accounts are set up. I can't stop that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to keep financing it. So I need you to move. I'm like, yeah, move me to America and I'll show you how I feel about it. That's usually how that goes.
Interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many.
And my kids live in America. Your kids live in America. So see, it's up to us to start telling the people in charge of the place where we live who work for us, yeah, I don't like you putting me at danger. I don't like you putting me in. First of all, my conscience, it's unconscionable that I would be okay with having someone displaced from their home by my cousin who's in the military or my uncle who's in the military or my brother who's in the military or my wife or my sister or my niece or my aunt who's in the military to go over there with guns, because that's how you have to do that. Because people normally just don't willingly leave their home unless they're being bombed, sound familiar, or shot at. Usually at gunpoint, that's how people just willingly leave their home. So it's up to us to finally get some spine and care about something other than cable TV or whatever the fuck. Because this is madness. And I do believe that I'm not an Abrahamic faith believer. I'm somewhere in between. I don't know where I am with my spiritual. I believe in God. A just God is not going to stand by for this. I'm telling you. As sure as my name is Oren Brian Lamena. Orun Mila Tunde Odogwo Bay. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It's not going to go unchecked. The writing's on the wall already. And who ends up suffering the consequences of poor decisions by people at the top of the empire are the people at the bottom of the fucking empire.
Of them that want to do this and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and frankly bad luck. This can be paid for by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and frankly bad luck.
Look at them.
This can be paid for by neighboring countries of great wealth. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. It could be numerous sites, or it could be one large site. But
just horse trading other people's lives. Could you imagine if there's somebody, could you imagine a nation talking about Americans like that? We're just going to go in and we're going to take all of Colorado. So, we can just move, the millions of people in Denver. We're just going to move them out. I don't know. We'll 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different sites, maybe one big one, and just give you we want that one. And we'll just move you out. You've been beleaguered and bombed. Aren't you tired of that? We're just going to move you out. We'll find one big happy place, or maybe 10, 12, 14, 15, 17 concentration camps where we can house you. It'll be fine. These are the things that have people looking at white men crazy. I'm being honest with you. These type of sayings are the things that, because it's just like, would you think of yourself like that? Didn't we just fight aren't we ensconced in supporting a whole Ukrainian-Russian war because Russia said, hey, that's ours. And you're like, no, it's not. And they took it. And then we're like, no, that's not right. You can't just take what's not yours.
But the people will be able to live in comfort and peace.
What's comfort and peace if I can't be at the crib?
And we'll make sure something really spectacular is done. They're going to have peace. They're not going to be shot at and killed and destroyed like this civilization of wonderful people has had to endure. The only reason...
At least he says wonderful people. There's something about this cat that makes me feel like, I don't know how to explain this. There's something about this cat that makes me feel like he's the first person I've heard even speak, like he won't say their name. No one will say Palestinian, by the way. But there's something in this where he's like, I just don't want you guys to get shot up anymore. And these fucking fucks aren't going to stop. That's what it feels like. That's what I want to say it feels. And I'm not a fan. To be honest with you, I'm not a fan. But in this instance, I'm just kind of like, there's a bit of compassion there. But it's like, no, there's not, because it's like, yeah, we'll just find you 7, 8, 12, 15 different places scattered, regardless of, where your grandmother used to stay. And yeah, you'll have to be over there and they'll be over there and they'll be over there, and probably all at the point of a gun, because that's not how that works. You can move them, but they're going to want to go home. So what do you have to do? They have to grin and bear it under lock and key, or you have to treat them like the Native American. You got to put them on reservations. That's what that shit sounds like. And no one wants to hear that because, it makes you feel bad about the history of this nation. I don't give a shit. Let me pull this down. Power unchecked it's got to feel intoxicating. It's got to feel intoxicating. It's got to feel like you're untouchable. No one can stop you. It's got to feel like that. But the moral arc of the universe is long, and it bends towards justice. To me, what that means is what's coming our way is an evolution of the human spirit and capabilities with that. And where you think bombs and guns and bluster will protect you, something bigger is on its way, is all I can say. Something greater is on its way. Because everybody's probably thought that as they sat atop the mountain. This will never end as long as as long as I can shoot enough people. As long as I can bomb enough people, my reign will never end. I'm quite sure if you could have pulled the dinosaurs. What the fuck?
The Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This has had to endure. The only reason
he actually said the Palestinians, which is crazy.
The Palestinians want to go killed and destroyed, like this civilization of wonderful people has had to endure. The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can...
That was the plan all along. That wasn't a war. That was a demolition project. And he just said it. It's a demolition site. They leveled that place. And if you think that was about hostages and October 7th, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. That was about exactly what this is. That was about what is being said now. It was a demo project. Level the place. Then that way, whatever tunnels are underneath that place, now you can go in, I'm quite sure, and try and clean out whatever you think is underneath there. And then we're going to what?
Occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people.
You know, there's oil underneath that place too, right? Of course there is.
People of the area do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
That's a threat and a promise. You can't go back. And if you go back, we'll kill you. You just can't go back. You can't go back. And if you go back, we'll kill you. That's so crazy that not one, but two Europeans of European descent could sit and tell people from North Africa, by all intent and purpose, we're going to move you and you can't go home. And if you go home, we'll kill you. In 2025. Now, if this were 1940, okay, whatever. 1950, sure. 70, okay, whatever. In 2025, this is how power unchecked behaves. All that flowery language, beautiful people, and they've been through so much. We're going to move you out of there. And you can't go home. And if you go back home, we'll shoot you.
I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And we've really done that. We're a respected nation.
American strength throughout the North African region. I'm even sick of calling it the Middle East. That in and of itself is just a political ploy. What does that mean? The Middle East. It's North Africa. No, like literally, it's North Africa. The Suez Canal does not make that not North Africa.
Again, a lot's happened in the last couple of weeks. We are actually a very respected nation again.
Feared versus respect are they're two different things.
We ended the last administration's de facto arms embargo on over $1 billion in military assistance for Israel. And I'm also pleased to announce that this afternoon, the United States withdrew from the anti-Semitic UN Human Rights Council and ended all of the support for the UN Relief and Works Agency, which funneled money to Hamas and which was very disloyal to you.
Well, I mean, wasn't Israel funding Hamas? We just looked at that, didn't we? We looked at that. So,
humanity. Today, I also took action to restore a maximum pressure policy on the Iranian regime, and we will once again enforce the most aggressive possible sanctions, drive Iranian oil exports to zero, and diminish the regime's capacity to fund terror throughout the region and throughout the world. We had no threat when I left.
Funding terror is funny because someone would call that, some people would call it, our very own military budget.
Left office, Iran was not able to sell oil. Nobody was buying oil because I said, don't buy it. If you buy it, you're not doing any business with the United States. And Hamas was not being funded. Hezbollah was not being funded.
Business. It's always business. It's all business. It's all business.
Nobody was being funded. There would never have been an October 7th. 2 weeks ago, I once again designated the Houthis as a terrorist organization. They're trying to destroy.
What do you think if the Houthis, mind you, the Houthis are from Yemen, and the Yemeni were the only Middle Eastern nation who stood up on behalf of the Palestinians? They're like, okay, you guys just want to indiscriminately shoot fish in a barrel. That's cool. Try and move your boats through the what do they call it? The Strait of Hormuz. And they act very much like pirates, policing that, and bomb the shit out of ships. So they closed those shipping lanes. So trade was severely affected by the Yemenite naval capabilities. And it's just funny what that them standing up on behalf of the Palestinian people, and they're labeled terrorists. So that means people who come to the aid of people under attack are terrorists. Huh. Well, what would that make us when we, because the way you look at it and things, it's kind of got a slant to it where but I guess maybe if you're just not willing to call spades, well, then it has this weird way of being like, this is going to come as a surprise to many, or maybe to none. The biggest terrorist organization in the world, the United States military.
World shipping lanes, and that's not going to happen. And over the weekend, I ordered airstrikes against senior ISIS leaders hiding in the caves of Somalia and took them out. Here in America, we've begun the process of deporting foreign terrorists, jihadists, and Hamas sympathizers from
students who are here on visas, who participated in Free Palestine, pro-Palestine protests during a genocide, will now be deported. In the land of free speech.
From our soil.
I guess unless you support people who are being genocided, and then there's no free speech.
Just as we have people that are extremely evil, and we're saying,
again, people who verbally protested ethnic cleansing and a genocide are typified as evil. You ever been gaslit before? Have you ever been gaslit before? If you live here, the answer is constantly if you watch the news.
Sending them out of our country. They came from jails. They came from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they were dumped into our country. They're gang members. And we're getting them out at numbers that nobody can actually believe. And every single country is taking those people back. They said they would never take them back, and they're all taking them back, and they're taking them back very gladly. And I recently signed an executive order combating the vile wave of anti-Semitism that we've seen in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks. Together,
a vile wave of anti-Semitism. I can't think of one murder. Lots of ideological clashes. Lots of people showing up at other people's rallies and yelling. UCLA comes to mind when it got mixy. It got mixy. There were, cherry bombs and fireworks being thrown by Jewish supporters at Palestinian supporters. Police clonking students over the heads. I don't remember any.
America and Israel will renew the optimism that shined so brightly just 4 years ago.
That's it. What they call optimism. Think about 4 years ago. 4 years ago would have preceded October 7th. So that was Palestinians living in an open air prison under apartheid rule. And that was peaceful because they were quiet for the time. Like they were planning and they were getting their shit off, lob a couple rockets over the wall, getting their shit off. Little shit that, that's easily taken care of. And then little by little, they put themselves together with help from Bibi and company because they fund that shit. They fund Hamas. So they little by little put themselves together. And then, Bibi and them got intelligence sources. So they knew that these cats were planning this whole over the wall deal. And well, you need that because give us a reason. 9/11, give us a 9/11. Give us a reason to go in there and get that oil. Give us a reason to go in there and level your town and drive you out. And if you get genocided in the process, can't make an omelet, right? Without breaking a few eggs.
It was really a bright, beautiful light. We will restore calm and stability to the region and expand prosperity, opportunity, and hope to our nations and for all people of the Middle East, including the Arab and Muslim nations. Very important. We want the Arab and Muslim nations to have peace and have tranquility and have
peace at the end of at the working end of a gun, at the open end of a barrel is hilarious. You feel peaceful? You're gonna be all right now, right? You're gonna chill the fuck out, right? Because you don't want what comes that's next. You'd shut your mouth if you knew it was. You'd be peaceful if you knew it was good for you. Peace. 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 You feel peaceful? That's right. You feel peaceful. And this is called progress. Peace. See? Peace.
Great lives.
If you think that is a way, I'm just going to keep, it's just on my mind. I just keep hearing it. The moral arc of the universe is long and it bends towards justice, which means eventually till you do right by me, everything imperialism has inflicted upon the world will be revisited upon it. And the only part that sucks about that is that these gollum ass fucks rarely ever experience it. It's the people on the lower rung until it reaches there. I'm saying, let's just beat them to the punch. Let's be the retribution, because nothing would please me more than to watch these people who send other people's children to die in wars that they wage for their purposes. You think this motherfucker gives a fuck about the people, about the Israelis that die in Israel at the hands of Palestinian resistance? You think he gives a fuck? You think this guy is sending his pervert son to go fight in war? To go get these places? that we just have to civilize? You think people like them suffer the consequences of people like them's actions? No, it's usually you and me. In some way, shape, or form. My cousin, my nephew, my niece, my uncle, my brother, my sister, my aunt, my whoever has to go over there and fight to go do this shit. Or the people that are fighting to keep that shit from happening, that want to get their voices heard, they do things like, now these were 19 of our allies. They were Saudis that hopped in planes and then whatever that was. Fuck around and find out.
I'd like to now invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to say.
Now we'll hear from a genocider. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through these comments by Netanyahu.
A few words, and we'll take some questions afterwards. Thank you very much.
I'm going to put him on double speak. I just can't stand this dude. I really can't. I think
I'm
he is
honored
the devil.
that you invited me to be the first foreign leader to visit the White House.
A genocider.
This is a testament to your friendship and support for the Jewish state and the Jewish people.
I want to make something clear. I practiced Judaism for 9 years. This isn't about Jewish people. By the way, that's like saying Christian people. That's like saying Baptist people. Right? It's a religion. It's not an ethnicity. It just so happens to be in certain regard, because it's a lot easier than saying what their actually ethnicity is. Like they would be, ethnicity is either, at worst, it's going to be your nationality. When it gets most squirrely, right? Your ethnic background. So you could call them Europeans, but you have to call them a Jewish people. Huh. Okay. Now there are now, when you're talking about the anthropological truth, there is a 13 tribes of Israel, 13th, Ephraim and Manasseh being the 13th tribe, really 13 and 14, but they're combined. And then you got the first 12 sons, right? And then Joseph's kids make up 13. Biblically, biblically, those people are all one man's sons. So that means they all share genetic material. That same man, the father of Abraham, the father of Jacob was Isaac. The father of Isaac was Abraham. So they're all related. You know who else was related to them? Ishmael. Abraham had 2 sons. Well, he had many sons, but he had 2 that are in this question. Abraham, Isaac, was one of his sons, the second born, because the first one, his name was Ishmael. And Ishmael is the father of the Arab nation, Islam. This is anthropological, biblical history. If you think the book is factual, that's the story in the book, right? So Abraham has Ishmael first, then has Isaac. Isaac becomes the father of Jacob. Jacob, who becomes Israel. Jacob's limp. Jacob is the youngest of 12 boys. Judah was where Jew comes from, is the oldest of the 12 boys. Ishmael, mind you, born of an Egyptian woman. That would have been because Abraham jumped the gun. Here's the story. Layman's terms. Abraham's old. Doesn't think he's going to have any kids. Abraham's got a wife named Sarah. Right. Abraham wants a son bad. He wants a son bad. But he's old. He's like damn near 100, or he is 100. And I believe his wife at the time, Sarah, was 99. He's like, I want a kid. God comes to him. And he's like, you're going to have a kid. Sarah laughs at this. I'm 99. I'm not having no children. To where God goes to Sarah and he's like, you laughing? She's like, I'm just, God, I didn't know you were listening. He's like, yeah, I'm listening. I'm always watching you. This is the story. So then Sarah gets smart. She's like, well, I mean, I'm too old to have a kid, but we got this servant, Hagar. This is the Egyptian woman. Hagar's our servant. Maybe God just means you're going to have a kid. Here, why don't you lay with my maidservant and have a kid with her? So they do. That child is Ishmael, Abraham's firstborn son. This is just in the Bible, whether you think it's true or not. This is the whole conflict, mind you. Well, there's Esau and all that, but hold on. Jacob and Esau is a whole thing. Same story, just a couple generations later. Plays itself out again. So God goes, that's not what I said. I said Sarah's going to have the baby, not Sarah's handmaid, not y'all's servant girl. So send the servant and her boy, Ishmael, off. Away with you. There'll be another one. That's the one I told you was going to be with her. And they're like, you sure? And God's like, yeah, idiot, I'm sure. So off Abraham sends Hagar and Ishmael. And God promises Hagar, they're under a bush. I'd pull all this up, but I can tell you from just trust me. You can look it up though. This is all in Genesis. First 10 chapters. Even before that. It's first 6 chapters. So off go Hagar and Ishmael, who is, mind you, Ishmael becomes the father of the Arab nation. That is the that's why if you ever read the Quran and the Torah and the Bible, Old Testament, they all tell the same stories. Did you know that? Were you aware of that? That's how that is. That's because that's now, I personally, when it comes to historically, anthropologically, you know what I mean when I say that? That means these are real people. These aren't myths. These are real people with real lineages. Because once you realize that this Bible is really a book of astrology, is what some people believe. 12 tribes, 12 zodiac signs. But never mind all that. Let's say that it's real. Let's say this is real history. This is the history. This is why these people are frauds, mind you. I don't think it's anthropologically biblical history like that. It's a story, great story. Can tell you a lot about your life. Ancient story, a retelling of older stories. Never mind that. Let's say it's true. Let's say it's true. Off go Hagar and Ishmael. Now it's just Abraham and Sarah again. And God's like, now listen, idiot, now you're going to have a kid. And they do. And this is the kid that Abraham's going to take to the top of the mountain and sacrifice. Because once he has the kid that he had been praying for, and then God's like, take the kid now and go sacrifice the kid. And he's like, what the fuck? But he was a faithful man. Crazy as a loon. So I'm going to go and I'm going to sacrifice the kid that God told me I was always going to have. The first one wasn't the one. I'd send him off. Now God's telling me to sacrifice this one. He goes to sacrifice the kid, gets to the top of the mountain. There's a ram. Ram's stuck in the thicket of the bushes because this is what Abraham tells Isaac. Isaac, by the way, is the kid that he has. He says, come on, boy, get up. Got this knife. We're going to go sacrifice to God. Not even understanding. Isaac doesn't understand it because Isaac's like, okay, come on. And he's like, Dad, what are we going to sacrifice? I don't see no animal. And in his mind, Abraham's like, maybe even you. But he can't say that. You don't want to scare the kid, right? What a God, right? Game player. Bit of a prove to me. You know how your lady's like, do you really love me? Anyway, I'm not trying to cast aspersions. He says, don't worry, God will provide the ram. It'll be fine. And we'll go to the top of this mountain over here and God will provide the ram. He's just trusting. God wouldn't make me. But if I got it, all the way until he puts the kid on the altar. He got his only baby boy, his second born, but this is the one I prayed to you for. His only baby boy. Put him on the altar. All right. Then he looks over. Oh, there's a ram in the thicket. Sacrifice the ram because God's like, okay, I didn't think you were going to do it. You fucking wild man. You were going to do that shit? That's crazy. You really do fuck with me, huh? That's the God of the Bible. Enlil and Enki. Look up those two characters. Elohim. Anyway, let me get to this anthropological time. I don't want to draw this out. How we ended up here with these two fucks. Okay, so now Isaac. Okay, so it goes from Abraham to Isaac. And Isaac is the one who has these sons. Isaac gives birth to Jacob. Jacob will become Israel. Isaac gives birth to Jacob. And God tells Jacob, because Isaac gives, okay, so Isaac has two sons. Same son. Isaac has Jacob and Esau. Well, Esau and Jacob, because Esau, they're twins. Esau is born first, Jacob born second. I'm talking about coming out of the womb. And there's this competition between Jacob and Esau. And you always see this in the Bible, this competition between brother and brother. Ishmael, Isaac. Jacob, Esau. Maybe think of it as the two sides within yourself at war. Think of it like that. But let's call it history. Let's say this is real and these are real people. Maybe it is. Because apparently these people say they originate from those people. All these people, mind you, all this is happening in Africa. I don't want to break. So you make of that what you will. Make of that what you will. If Moses, offshoot, same dope, different smoke. If Moses was able to pass for an Egyptian, what does that tell you that Moses looked like? That's only in looking at this Gollum ass fuck. All right. So Jacob and Esau are at war because Jacob is his mom's favorite. Esau's his mom's favorite. Esau's his dad's favorite. I'm sorry. Jacob's the mom's favorite. Their dad, Isaac, his eyesight's failing. Jacob's mom encourages Jacob to trick the dad into giving him the blessing. So the older boy, that's where the birthright goes, right? The firstborn son gets the birth. Esau, mind you, is the firstborn son. The firstborn son is supposed to get the birthright. Esau is described as a redhead, hairy dude, warlock guy. Jacob's cunning, bit of a he likes to play around with the truth, bit of a liar. The mom encourages him like, yeah, it's time to bless the boys, pass on the birthright. And Jacob usurps Esau for the birthright, long short. And now Esau's pissed. He's like, what the fuck? Father blessed me as well. And he's like, I can't. Got one birthright. Can only go to one of y'all. Sorry, your brother was cunning. He got you. Now these two are at war. By the way, Esau has to go away because he's like, he tells Jacob basically, if I see you again, it's not going to be good for you. I'm off. That becomes the Canaanites, the land of the Canaanites. Make of that what you will. Now it's just Jacob by himself. And then Jacob wrestles with God because he's trying to figure his shit out. And God displaces his hip, and he's got a hip. That's where you hear Jacob's limp. That's where that comes from. And at that moment, that's when his name is changed from Jacob to Israel, which means he who wrestles with God. Although you could look at it and say Isis, Ra, and El. A whole nother thing. Israel. Isis, Ra, and El. All deities that precede these biblical tellings. But let's just say this is still history. Israel goes on to have 12 sons. The youngest of his sons is Joseph. Joseph is sent off by the oldest boy, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, all these other ones. They don't like the youngest because the youngest is he sees dreams. He reads dreams. And he has a dream one time and he's telling his dad, Israel, I had a dream that you and all my brothers were bowing down, all y'all's sheaves bowed down to my sheep. And he's like, the dad is like, oh, you think that's how it's going down, little man? And the brothers are like, there's no way in the world it's going down like that. And they sell Joseph into slavery. Joseph ends up in Egypt. But he still tells dreams. He ends up being Pharaoh's favorite, all the things. He has 2 kids. Eventually, his 2 kids become Ephraim and Manasseh. And then they are grafted into these 12 sons that Israel had, right? And so there's Judah, Zebulun, Issachar, Joseph, the 12 sons. Why are all of them? There's so many escaping me. Oh, what are the priests? It'll come to me. The point is, the people who occupy the land of Palestine claim to be the sons of 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 this story. Mind you, these were all African people. That's not supposed. That's just, if the story's true, anthropologically factual, because this story takes place in Africa. There's not the Middle East, quote unquote. Cutting a canal through Egypt doesn't make it any less North Africa. And turn the other part, the easternmost part of it, into a place you call the Middle East. This is just fact. It sits on the continent of Africa, right next to Egypt. How do you think they walked over and walked back from Israel to Egypt? Because it's okay. So these fucks, because eventually what ends up happening with Israel, right? So they go into Israel, they go into Egypt, they're in captivity in Egypt. Eventually, they leave Egypt, they're given the Holy Land, which is Israel, North Africa, and then they're not good with the land, and then they're expelled and scattered amongst the nations. But lo and behold, all the way up until 1917, even after the Ottoman Empire had come in and taken over, and the Arabs had come in and taken over and shit, there were still Muslim, Christian, and Jew living in Palestine in relative peace. And these fucks who are European, there's no getting around that. And you'd say, oh, well, maybe they were part of the ones that were scattered amongst the nations. Doubtful, because those people, by that time, there was a definite delineation. This is only 5,000 years ago. Jesus was 2,000 years ago. So this is only 5,000 years ago. These people did not change from black people to these European fucks in 5. But what did happen is, scattered amongst the nations means you're out over here, you're out over there, you're out over here. If you research the Moors, many of their practices would remind you of Jewish practices. And the Moors had come up from northern Africa and all the way into Europe, and they were all up in there. Look up the Etruscans, the people who preceded the Greeks. Look them up. You look it up. I don't want to be telling tales out of maybe teaching this way of being, this particular religious exploit. And Europeans get a hold of it. And now you're grafted in. You want to be a part of the religion? Yeah, come on. And now somehow have become, now, if there were 12 sons, let me just look up the, remember, just remember, when you hear Jewish, just think Judah. 12 sons of Israel. I should just put the sons of Israel, because you have to put Ephraim and Manasseh in there. So, in order: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, not the oldest, my bad, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin. And then Joseph has 2 sons. So Joseph has 2 sons, and those 2 sons are grafted in to the tribes of Israel. There are 12 tribes of Israel. So if you hear Jewish, Judah, that only represents one of 13 sons. So that means Reuben has offspring, right? Simeon has offspring. Levi was the ones that those become the priests. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin, all of them have sons. And those sons had sons, and sons had sons, and sons had sons, and sons had sons. So when you say Jewish, you're only talking about one aspect of the Israeli or Israel lineage. So, okay, let's say the Judah tribe looked like these fucks. They didn't, but let's say they did. Well, that still doesn't mean that there aren't 12 others. And by the time the Balfour Declaration, I say all that to say that by the time the Balfour Declaration was signed in 1917, many of them had returned to the chosen people's land and were living there in relative peace alongside Muslims, Ishmael, and Christians. Goyim. So when these fucks show up, we're home. Okay, cool. But then that becomes yours and yours alone? Which is how we find ourselves where we are. Because all this is, I'm so sorry to break it to anybody, this isn't about Jewish people. This is about Zionists. This is about Zionism. This isn't about Jewish people, the Jewish religion. It's a great exploit. I said I practiced for 9 years. Was a Christian before that. This is about Zionism. And there's not a string. Zionists don't believe in Judaism. They're anti-Semitic by virtue of their actions. This is about colonialism, wrapped up and disguised as a Jewish thing, which makes anything that happens to Zionists or the people that they exploit anti-Semitic. Make sense? So when colonialists, imperialists impose their will on people, and those people go, fuck you, they say, you're anti-Semitic. And all the people are saying is, no, not them, fuck you. And here we are.
Just before, I'll say it again. You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House. And that's why the people of Israel have such...
Look at this fucking golem. I don't make it a point to say this. I hate this man. I don't think I find anyone more detestable than Benjamin Netanyahu. He is openly supported genociding people right before the world's eyes with a smile on his face. Sponsored it, executed it, and gaslit the world the entire way. He'll say whatever he needs to say.
Enormous respect for you. In your first term, you recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. You moved the American embassy there. You recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. You withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. I remember we spoke about it. You said, this is the worst deal I've ever seen.
This is a guy who just has been overseeing a genocide. Speaking in the first foreign dignitary to speak to this fuck in this place that is supposed to be so hallowed.
I'm elected. I'm walking out of it. That's exactly what you did. And I think.
By the way, that whole story that I told you and how that leads up to modern day after 1948 and then 7 Days War and the constant annexation of Palestinians' land to where they're relegated in this whole, because see, there was no Israel. It was Palestine when they showed up. And then little by little, after you win that war, they just carve it up, just keep carving it up and keep pushing you and relegating you to smaller and smaller places. And these people who have been pushed and pushed and pushed, that's where, and I didn't understand this as a young person. That's where, am I justifying it? No, but yes. Because a people under occupation, by virtue of the Geneva Convention, has every right to defend themselves however they see fit. So if that means strapping a bomb to your chest and stepping on a bus, wherever, because people, the funny thing about it is, it's crazy. People don't like to be just pushed off their shit and murdered indiscriminately. It's crazy. Isn't that wild that people don't like that? That is crazy. And now this fuck has completely embroiled us right back in that. Forget about the fact that everything that's happening over there is reprehensible. And again, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And whatever that thing is up there, doing whatever, calling itself whatever, however you interface with it, if it's just, because I think it's ridiculous to call it a he, this will not stand. And we are living in different times. And maybe in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, you had all the quote unquote time in the world. That time is ticked and gone. Humanity is ready to evolve. And imperialists do not have a place in the new world. The fact that it costs to live on Earth as a human being is an affront to you being born as a human being in and of itself. It's just stupid. You think any advanced civilization would sell its own resources to itself? Does that make sense? So whether it's water, power, land, whatever, think about it. For what? In exchange for what? Money isn't even as valuable as the shit that money buys. That's why you need money to get. Which is more valuable? $1 or the apple that it buys? Well, the question I guess becomes, can you eat the fucking dollar? No, you can't. Which is more valuable? Money or the lumber that builds a house? Obviously, the lumber that builds the house. Where did the money come from? From people who don't have their own sets of resources and somehow trick people out of position. Here, I'll give you this piece of paper for that wood. Well, this wood has value. You got any chickens? No, I don't got no chickens. Do you have any berries? No, I don't have any berries. Got any spices? No, I don't have any spices. Well, what do you have? I got this money. Oh, yeah, but I got this wood. This wood means everything. Go chop you some wood. I don't know how to chop wood. I don't know what to tell you, brother. And then eventually somebody capitulated to that shit because it still doesn't make any sense. The thought that an economy would be based off anything other than the amount of work that you do and the resources that you have is asinine. Because you can just print money out of nowhere. We've been watching it. So what value does it have? And the more they print, the more it devalues work. Because if all your work... Let me get and stay along the point of imperialism. We've done this thing for long enough. This whole living anti-human. And I think there's an evolutionary arc that's dying to break free. And old systems have to fall away in order for that to happen. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. To me means you've had your fun. You did it. Cool. You amassed a bunch of money and you killed a bunch of people for what? We're not doing that no more. There's a new thing dying to break free. You know how I know? Because the greatest economic empire the world has ever seen has mismanaged itself into trillions of dollars worth of debt. And the only thing keeping it afloat are bullets and bombs. That's it. It's not money. It can't be money. You don't have any. Matter of fact, you have negative monies. Oh, we'll just print some more because that works. That's why the dollar's worth 3 cents. Don't ask me. Ask an economist. So the greatest civilization the world has ever known has managed itself into a financial hole. And the ones that are going to come behind us, China's going to be the next economy, and blah, blah, blah is going to be the next economy. And this one's going to, until humans reach that level where they realize, you know what's dumb? For us to pay to live on Earth. It makes no sense. It stops innovation, in fact. It keeps evolution at bay, in fact. Because when the people can't create freely, because they're under the pressure of having to pay for a life. Did you ask to be here? I didn't, but you did. But I didn't, in a way, right? You showed up. Was there like a ticket taker when you came? Did you have to punch a ticket? Did you have to buy an express ticket to get to the world that you live in? No? Me either. Cool. Whew. I thought it was only me. That means everything here. What price does the fox pay for its food and its shelter? And I could ask you that same question for every single being on Earth. And the answer would be the same thing. Its own work. Sure, absolutely. Bees have to go pollinate flowers in order to fucking have honey that does whatever the fuck they do that with. Elephants have to expend the energy to have their trunk go up and pick leaves and whatever. Lions have to learn how to hunt on the Serengeti. You catch, you kill. No exchange of money. Except for, the top of the food chain hasn't figured out how to maximize its resources based on where are your feet? There are your feet. Maximize your resources on that land. That's how it was before money. How old do you think money is? It's not that old. It's not nearly as old as humans. So what do you think humans were doing before money? Interesting. And this is called advancement. It sounds like a devolution. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. To me, it's just about evolution and about realizing that there are better ways of doing things. Justice, just us, justice, to me looks like that old world needs to pass away so that we can really reach the stars if that's what humans are supposed to do. But more than anything, this way of doing stuff that these two fucks are talking about and patting themselves on the back for, I promise you, it might not be in my lifetime completely, although I'm not so sure the way things are moving. It's not going to last much longer. It's not going to last much longer. It not only is it unsustainable, it's already reached levels of ridiculousness. Currently, if this, hold on, what is it? Where is it at? Let me see. National debt clock. It's like, oh my God, you know, he's gonna be able to, he's gonna do something that's gonna spend us out of it. Where is it? There you go, right up there, right up here, right there. Apparently, if all this is real, we are currently $36 trillion in debt. We're in the red. Now you have a bank account. You ever been $100 in the red? $200 in the red? $400 in the red? Let's say a whole $1,000 in the red. Now, apart from earning more money than you owe and putting back what you owe, at a certain point in time, you probably run out of, there's no more money coming out along, is there? How do you keep having budgets and okaying $1 trillion budgets if you're trillions of dollars in debt? This is how you know money ain't worth shit. How does you do it? You try it. The only way, okay, the only way I know that you can like make money without going out and working for it is to counterfeit it. Will they allow you to do that? Well, if it's called counterfeiting when you and I do it, what's it called when they do it? Here's another question. What's a counterfeit dollar bill worth? I mean, they'll tell you that a whole dollar bill is worth 100 pennies, even though it's not right now. Can't be. A whole dollar bill is worth 100 pennies. Well, what's a counterfeit dollar bill worth? No pennies. Okay. So if I got 1 million counterfeit dollar bills, how much money do I have? I have no money. I just have counterfeit dollar bills, right? Right. So if I'm in debt, but I'm able to okay trillions of dollars to spend while I'm in, well, what are those trillions of dollars worth if I'm already in debt? They can't be worth 100 pennies each, right? Does that make sense? Doesn't make good accounting sense. I say all that to say the world of money is ridiculous because they don't adhere to their own value system. And it's soon to pass away. So once again, when these two fucks are patting each other on the back and smiling, I don't know. I kind of feel like this guy. I don't know how I feel about him. Caught in the middle of some shit, a mob boss. But this guy, pure evil.
I think it speaks loudly for just common sense, just looking at things and seeing them as they are. And of course, you also brokered the groundbreaking Abraham Accords in which Israel made peace with 4 Arab states. We did this in 4 months. Nothing happened for a quarter of a century, but in 4 months, we were able, working together under your leadership, to have 4 historic peace accords. And now,
this is a war criminal talking in the hallowed halls of U.S. government.
Now, in the first days of your second term, you picked up right where you left off. Your leadership helped bring our hostages home, among them American citizens. You freed up munitions that have been withheld from Israel. They had been withheld from Israel in the midst of a 7-front war for our existence.
Let me slow this down so we can listen to this devil talk.
And you just freed it. 4 historic peace accords. And now in the first days of your second term, you picked up right where you left off. Your leadership helped bring our hostages home, among them American citizens. You freed up munitions that have been withheld from Israel. They had been withheld from Israel in the midst of a 7-front war for our existence. And you just freed it. You ended unjust sanctions against law-abiding Israeli citizens. You boldly confronted the scourge of anti-Semitism. You stopped funding, as you just said, international organizations like UNRWA that support and fund terrorists. And today,
but you support and fund terrorists. You support and fund Hamas, Bibi.
today, you renewed the maximum pressure campaign against Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, all this in just 2 weeks. Can we imagine where we'll be in 4?
He's a devil, like quite literally, a golem demon walking amongst men.
4 years. I can. I know you can, Mr. President. For our part, we in Israel have been pretty busy too. Since the horrendous October 7th attack, we've been fighting our common enemies and changing the face of the Middle East. On that infamous day,
that was a lie, proven. And this is what you did to them in return. Look at babies. Babies. So you can see the devil's handiwork.
لم نتعود المشهد لكن خلص كل يوم نحن في المشهد هذا يعني احنا هاي صلحنا جزء ضل جزء كبير.
The stories that you hear of what has happened, it literally makes your skin crawl. This was an ambulance. مين هن يعني معروف؟
هون عندنا 8 سنوات. قسم متى وقفها انحرق بشكل كامل ضمن.
Bombed hospitals.
It's just completely surreal to walk through this and think of all of the lives that could have been saved.
All this all distracted here. You see, completely damaged, fair, completely. لم نتعود المشهد لكن خلص كل يوم نحن في المشهد هذا. يعني احنا هاي صلحنا جزء ضل جزء كبير.
The horrors that unfolded here.
أن يتكرر سيناريو مستشفى.
By the way, me doing this, maybe this will be considered anti-Semitic. Pointing out and just showing. What does this one say? Israeli forces shoot down oh, they're just shooting. They're brave. These are brave soldiers. I weep for the world, man. Sometimes I just, because these are big ticket items. These are big issues that people don't have time in their lives to really delve into and understand. Shit, some people just don't even give a shit. I mean, keeping it a buck, you got enough going on in your own life, right? Who cares about a couple million people displaced from their homes, right? Because you'll never get the real story anyway, because the people that are really to blame are, the terrorists, quote unquote. And then you just look deep enough. You just look deep enough and you realize that you've been sold a handful, like a barrel full of lies your entire life. And all you want to do is wash your hands clean of it. So how do you do that? Oh, I step back and I'm better to my wife and my kids. And I say, nope. Over 50 British MPs signed letter urging UK to evacuate injured children from Gaza. And trust me, like, my people are from the Congo, and we got our own genocide going over there, so that people can have these whole genocide happening in Congo, so that more of these can be made. And I'm telling you, it's unsustainable. Not because I said so, but because the moral arc of the universe is long and it bends towards justice. And I think it's just about time that we grow the fuck up and actually become a better race of being. And I don't think the world is going to wait on us much longer, to be honest with you. I don't think evolution is going to wait on us much longer.
With the indomitable spirit.
You don't have to understand these issues. You don't have to be a Middle East or fucking, I hate that term. You don't have to be a conflict information specialist to understand that this is wrong and unsustainable, and it probably won't continue. And think about life in America. This is what I'm saying when I say the moral arc. Do you think that a just God would allow that type of shit to happen with Western interests backing it, financing it, doing, and then the people on the bottom in that country will be able to thrive and flourish? Like, let's just say you don't believe in God. Let's say you believe in karma. So the question is, if you're on the bottom rung, how long do you want to be eating shit for these people's karma? Because it's not going to stop. In fact, I submit to you, it's only going to intensify.
Of our people and the boundless courage of our soldiers. The Bible says
the boundless courage of
the
our
people
soldiers.
of Israel.
How he says the Bible says. Now, I'm not that guy. The Lord knows I got my opinions on the Bible. And I don't even think it's a bad book. I just don't think it's the book that people think that it is. It's a book of astrology. What my studies very peripherally have taught me. But the fact that a demon has no problem in saying the Bible says should tell you. A person who oversees a genocide, not a guy who gets on a witness stand and lies after putting his hand on the Bible saying, I solemnly swear. That's one thing. That's one thing. That's a thing. That's a definite thing. But a guy who would smugly, with his black mouth, not me, I'm talking about, look at him, oversee, finance, instigate a genocide, would then turn and say, the Bible says.
Think of that trick, how they pull it off, purely based on they wouldn't do that. How many times you got to see they would do that before you get it? They would do that, and they did do that, and they're doing it now. And I understand if you're a little cow that wants to believe in it, but grow the fuck up. Just be honest. Look at the thing in front of you.
There is no one more anti-Semitic than Bibi Netanyahu and the people who he support and who he works with and for.
Shall rise like lions, and boy did we rise. Today, the roar of the Lion of Judah is heard loudly throughout the Middle East. Israel has never been stronger, and the Iran terror axis has never been weaker. But as we discussed, Mr. President, to secure our future and bring peace to our region, we have to finish the job. In Gaza, Israel has 3 goals: destroy Hamas's military and governing capabilities, secure the release of all of our hostages, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. I believe, Mr. President.
How did an open-air prison pose a threat to Israel? Before October 7th, is widely known, agreed, that was an apartheid situation. Yeah, they fire their little rockets over your wall, right? But for the most part, widely known as an apartheid situation, an internment camp. How did that pose a threat to Israel? Seriously.
That your willingness to puncture conventional thinking that has failed time and time and time again, your willingness to think outside the box with fresh ideas will help us achieve all these goals. And I've seen you do this many times. You cut to the chase. You see things others refuse to see. You say things others refuse to say. And after the jaws drop, people scratch their heads and they say, you know, he's right. And this is the kind of thinking that enabled us to bring the Abraham Accords. This is the kind of thinking that will reshape the Middle East and bring peace. We also see eye to eye on Iran. That's the same Iran that tried to kill us both. They tried to kill you, Mr. President. They tried through their proxies to kill me. We're both committed to rolling back Iran's aggression in the region and ensuring that Iran
That's where
never
we're headed to
develops
next, by the way.
a nuclear weapon. Mr. President,
World War III.
ladies and gentlemen, Israel
Think they'll stop?
will end the war.
That's funny. You think they'll stop? You think it stops with Gaza? That's what you think? Well, just let them have it. It'll be they're heading to Iran next. You can't finish the job unless you do that. You really can't finish the job until you repopulate the entire Middle East with Zionists. Northern Africa, right? You got your capitulators over there, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. They don't give a shit. They're just kind of like, we just want to make our money. But you got your people over there, Yemen, Iran. I mean, Iraq's all fucked up. You did the job in Syria. But that, but this doesn't stop until you could, do away with Iran and Hezbollah. It's just World War III. You just need a foothold, though, right? So now you'd have a reason if you take Gaza and we own it. That's what he said. That means a military installation, an American military installation in Gaza. How is he going to control it? It's only that big. It's the size of New Jersey.
By winning the war, Israel's victory will be America's victory. We will not only win the war.
I heard it I have it on good authority that even American officials were like, you can't do this. Bibi and them were like, y'all did it. Why can't we? You guys did it with the Native Americans. Why can't we? And why wouldn't they say that? Right? You did it. You guys dropped fucking nukes on Japan. Why can't we?
Working together, we will win the peace. With your leadership, Mr. President, and our partnership.
How do you win peace against people that you displace? Well, I guess you got to kill them all, right?
I believe that we will forge a brilliant future for our region and bring our great alliance to even greater heights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, baby. Very nice. Thank you.
Everyone applauding in that audience is a demon. Everyone clapping for that devil is a demon.
JD Vance, everybody. JD, please, Vice President, stand up. He's been doing a good job. He's been working very hard on all things, but this in particular. We'll take some questions, please. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
President, can a normalization deal with Saudi Arabia be achieved without the acknowledgement of a Palestinian state? That question for you too, Mr. Prime Minister. And Mr. President, given what you've said about Gaza, did the U.S. send troops to help secure the security vacuum?
So Saudi Arabia is going to be very helpful, and they have been very helpful. They want peace in the Middle East. It's very simple. We know their leader and their leaders very well. They're wonderful people, and they want peace in the Middle East. As far as Gaza is concerned, we'll do what is necessary. If it's necessary, we'll do that. We're going to take over that piece, and we're going to develop it, create thousands and thousands of jobs, and it'll be something that the entire Middle East can be very.
Would you want to go and work as a contractor in the redevelopment in the French Riviera of Gaza? Would you want to do that? Would you do that job? You want to go over there and work and, you know, like putting up condos and shit?
Proud of, but everybody feels that continuing the same process that's gone on forever, over and over again, and then it starts, and then the killing starts, and all of the other problems start, and
maybe just leave. No,
and you end up in this.
Maybe just send Europeans back to Europe. No,
same place, and we don't want to see that happen. So by the United States, with its stability and strength, owning it, especially the strength that we're developing.
Owning it. Sounds like Hawaii. Sounds like Puerto Rico. Sounds like Alaska. Sounds like the problem. These
and developed over the last fairly short period of time. I would say really since the election. I think we'll be a keeper of something that is very, very strong, very powerful, and very, very good for the area, not just for Israel, for the entire Middle East. Very important. And we'll, again, have thousands of jobs, and there'll be jobs for everyone, not for a specific group of people, but.
The fuck does that mean? You think someone wants to get a job slinging hash to rich folk in Gaza? Are you dumb? They're lobbying
for everybody. Okay, please.
I think peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia is not only feasible, I think it's going to happen. I think if we had another half a year in your first term, it would have already happened.
True. Many, many more. I agree. Many more nations.
I think you can't prejudge and pre-guess how we'll achieve it, but I'm committed to achieving it. And I know the president is committed to achieving it. And I think the Saudi leadership is interested to achieve it. So we'll give it a good shot, and I think we'll succeed.
Yeah, please go ahead.
First of all, President Trump, did you hear from Prime Minister Netanyahu at your meeting guarantees that ceasefire would roll including phase 2? And Prime Minister Netanyahu, why are you refusing to set up a national commission to investigate the failure of October 7th?
Well, I can't tell you whether or not the ceasefire will hold. We've done.
These people are so afraid. The press corps is so fearful to just say the thing.
I think a very masterful job. We weren't helped very much by the Biden administration, I can tell you that. But we've gotten quite a few hostages out. We're going to get more out. But we're dealing with very complex people. And we are going to see whether or not it holds. We certainly want to have more come out. They've come out damaged in many ways, very damaged people. But they're going to get better, and they're going to be strong, and they're going to have a good life. And we hope to get as many as possible out. Whether or not it holds, I don't know. We hope it holds. We hope it holds.
I think that at the appropriate time, which I think will enable us to really investigate what happens, what were the causes of the failures, by an independent commission that will be accepted by the majority of the people. We don't want it accepted by one half of the people and not the other. I think we should have it, and we should find out exactly what happened. I'm insisting on it. And believe me, it'll surprise a lot of people when it happens.
Kelly, go ahead.
You are outlining something that is really quite striking tonight. You are talking about. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister. You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there, redevelopment? And Mr. Prime Minister, do you see this idea as a way to expand the boundaries of Israel and to have a longer peace, even though the Israeli people know how important that land is to you and your citizens, just as the space is inherited by the Palestinians as well?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble and demolished buildings.
And you're just going to build a Vegas on top of it. These are these people's aspirations. Yeah, it'll be nice jobs, and rich people will be able to go and sit and sip lattes and look out, over the coastline and know that just below their feet a genocide happened. These are the motivations of these people. This is the height of sophistication.
Buildings falling all over. It's just a terrible sight. I've studied it. I've studied this very closely over a lot of months, and I've seen it from every different angle. And it's a very, very dangerous place to be. And it's only going to get worse. And I think this is an idea that's gotten tremendous, and I'm talking about from the highest level of leadership.
Mind-numbing.
Gotten tremendous praise. And if the United States can help to bring stability and peace in the Middle East, we'll do that. Bibi?
I mentioned again tonight our three goals. And the third goal is to make sure that Gaza never poses a threat to Israel again. President Trump is taking it to a much higher level.
How does an open air prison that you control the water, power, food, everything coming in and out of did before you flattened it? How did that pose a threat to you who controls all of that? And no one in the press corps has the balls to ask that.
He sees a different future for that piece of land that has been the focus of so much terrorism, so many attacks against us, so many trials and so many tribulations. He has a different idea. And I think it's worth paying attention to this. We're talking about it. He's exploring it with his people, with his staff. I think it's something that could change history. And it's worthwhile really pursuing this avenue.
The U.S. occupying Gaza. Gaza, as they would say it. It's
yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead. Right.
Question for you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So for rebuilding Gaza again, obviously it'll take out all the hostages, and one of them is Sudan Alexander, an American who is alive. How will you be assured that you will take out all the hostages? And then
I'm done. I'm done. I'm just getting more and more pissed. It's not doing what I thought it would do. I came on to just have my cathartic moment. And listening to that's not going to give it to me. All I can say is this. All I can say is this. It's going to take, I don't even think a Herculean effort, but an honest one from real people to see the world change. And I think it could change overnight. As long as ridiculousness like this goes unchecked, and these people with their balding heads sit in their fat slovenly bodies, sit by, basically okaying some of the most heinous shit. Fuck if you care about the Palestinians. I'm just talking about caring about humanity. Because they're spineless and all that matters is making money. There'll never be peace. Nor should there be. But I hold on to this belief that I have somewhere deep inside of me that humanity is ready to graduate past this bullshit. And it may not happen completely in my lifetime, because I think sometimes I've been foolish enough to think that it can happen overnight. Although I do believe that it can. But the seeds of change need to be planted in this season. This one, I'm talking about this specific season. And in a time of catalyzed exponential growth, those seeds will sprout and they will grow into vines that will raise up and choke these evil motherfuckers the fuck out. Y'all be easy.